to it. My friend, Chip Patterson, CBSSports.com, Cover 3 podcast moderators. We go to the college game. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. It was great to spend some time with you. Great to sit down at Radio Row and socialize just a little bit. But here we are back in the beautiful gifts of technology, which connect us, even though we're about a mile and a half apart.
Here's the thing about the trip to Operation Football is that we hung out a little bit on Wednesday night, and all it did was make me want more. That's it. That's the way I feel about you, Chip. I want to spend more time with you. We're not going to date. We're both married men. All right, let me get to something that happened at ACC football kickoff. Everybody voted. Nobody should be surprised that Miami was picked to win the Coastal. I don't think anybody is surprised that Clemson was picked to win the Atlantic. Maybe the margin over NC State surprised some, but I'm not surprised by it because I understand it. So before I get your thoughts on that, I'll tell you what did surprise me. Florida State and Georgia Tech getting votes for first place in their respective divisions. That I cannot justify. I can sort of justify BC getting a first place vote. I can't justify Georgia Tech or Florida State. Did any of that surprise you?
It was a complicated voting process. I don't know how, the sportsystem.com,
right.
Your website, because, and to zoom this out nationally, Vanderbilt got a vote for SEC champion. And, we had that discussion among the workroom. Like, is this something we point our finger and laugh at? What we decided is that it was very possible that somewhere within the drag and the drop, a mistake was made.
Right.
And we've got a wide range of, technology capable media.
Okay.
Who all get the opportunity to submit their ballot. And so I am willing to entertain single votes that look like outliers may truly have been drag and drop mistakes. But the 2 votes for Florida State are interesting because I don't think that 2 mistakes were made, which means that there's a lot of belief in Jordan Travis.
Okay.
There's a lot of belief that they're going to be able to replace the ACC Defensive Player of the Year, Jermaine Johnson, with just another transfer in Jared Verse. I don't think that that's going to be the case. You got one of them from Georgia. You got the other from Albany. I don't know. I think the defensive lineman from Georgia is going to be a little bit more ready to dominate at the ACC level than the one from Albany, though I do think Jared Verse is going to be very good. So, Georgia Tech seems egregious because I think that Georgia Tech is going to win 2 to 3 games this season. The Florida State, I think, is probably more of a 7-win team. Very difficult schedule. But first place in the Atlantic Division, when there are very quickly 3 teams that I think are going to finish higher than them in the standings in Clemson, NC State, and Wake Forest, I think that the second one there is the one I've got to at least point my finger at.
I mean, honestly, maybe it's the dog on the remote theory. As to that, that's how certain shows get ratings. The dog, accidentally changed the remote. Chip Patterson.
The drag and the drop, you shift them up, you shift them down. It's very possible that mistakes were made. The team that you meant to have last place accidentally slid up to the top as you were doing some shuffling.
So they ask you to review your ballot before you hit submit, but a lot of people didn't review. It's sort of like, read all of this before you click I agree. And none of us ever. We just scroll to the bottom and click I agree. All right. No issues at all at the top. Did you vote for Clemson and Miami? Who did you vote for on either side?
Truth be told, I had a very busy weekend. I'll let the ballot expire.
It's fine. Good for you.
I normally do. There's nothing that is fundamentally philosophically I stand against it. I just, the rest of the family was in Sparta, North Carolina. I had to run up to Sparta. I had to get all of them. We had to get down the mountain. We've had some things going on with friends and family all through the weekend. My heart and my mind were divided. And I apologize to Kevin and the rest of the ACC staff. It looks as though you had plenty of representation.
164 people voted.
Yeah, I would pick Clemson 1 in the Atlantic. I would pick Miami 1 in the Coastal, and I would do Clemson over Miami. Absolutely no issue. Looking at the actual breakup within the Coastal Division, I thought that was a lot of, even 18 first place votes for North Carolina compared to the 38 for Pitt seemed like a lot. If you want to make the Pitt argument, it is the idea that Panthers, Pat Narduzzi bully ball will be back. And guess what? Pat Narduzzi bully ball got Pitt to the ACC championship game before.
Yeah.
They've got all their offensive linemen back. Defensive line will be great. Linebackers are good. He's talking trash about the offensive coordinator who only delivered a Heisman Trophy finalist quarterback and a Biletnikoff award-winning wide receiver. So I think it's just going to be right back to the old school for the Panthers, but they're good enough along the lines of scrimmage that I think that that's going to have them locked up in that second place. Who knows if Miami craters, Pitt might be able to repeat as Coastal Division champs. And in the Atlantic Division, I understand that if you don't want to buy Dabo Swinney's support of DJ Uiagalelei, but I tend to think that football players that are built like that can have hiccups, but I don't see this totally cratering. And so
I don't either.
I think DJU, he is not going to throw for 400 yards every single time like he did in 2 starts as a freshman, but he is going to be better than last place in the ACC in passer efficiency.
I agree with you. And I also, he said he played at 260 some odd last year, and he's down to 235 or 238. So he's obviously in better shape. It's always good to be in the best shape of your life. Everybody says that. But
he looks slim too.
He did.
The eye test checks that out. I mean,
no question.
He said he was really big at the end of the cheese. He measured himself after the Cheez-It Bowl, which, hilarious to say. I was big after the Cheez-It Bowl, needed to lose some weight. And after eating a bowl of Cheez-Its, I need to lose some weight as well. So relatability from DJ Uiagalelei. But footwork was the one thing that I'd always heard, and that it was balance. And it was, when he escaped the pocket, he wasn't able to get his balance. And look, I'm so sick of all these young quarterbacks trying to think they're Patrick Mahomes with these off-platform throws. But there is something to somebody of DJU's caliber and size where if he can get his balance and keep his balance when he's breaking the pocket, then he's going to be able to be more accurate with his throws downfield. And that could be something that's huge for bringing Clemson's passing attack back.
I agree. Look, to me, I voted for State based on the fact that I think they have a more known commodity offensively, and it was an opportunity, to be perfectly honest. It was an opportunity. Clemson's not, they didn't win it last year, but to me it's an opportunity for NC State, so we'll take a shot in the dark. I think the season will be determined. I think the conference, the division will be determined the 5th week of the season when State is at Clemson. I think the Wolfpack are going down there 4-0, and we'll take a shot at beating Clemson 2 years in a row. And I picked Miami on the other side. I actually picked Miami to beat NC State in the final. Let me ask you about Kevin Warren, the commissioner of the Big Ten, who aggressive, almost brazen with his public pursuit. Well, yeah, we could expand. And it's not just Notre Dame. There are other schools out there that add value. I would argue that there aren't, to the point where the Big Ten should consider expanding unless he wants to lower the payout per school. What do you think about what Kevin Warren had to say yesterday?
There's 2 areas that I think are really interesting from Kevin Warren. The first of which is the conference expansion. The second of which is the playoff expansion. So since you mentioned it, I'll do the conference expansion side first. We heard, he had all of his will expand at the right time for the right reasons. Sure. And Dennis Dodd has the report right now that Cal, Oregon, Washington, and Stanford are 4 of the potential prospects for expansion. I would argue that those are 4 prospects for expansion, maybe for the ACC as well. And I think that as any conference is going about their, if we are going to expand, let's evaluate these schools. So I do think that while his comments were very aggressive and brazen, and Dennis Dodd's report even said that they shook up a lot within the industry, and that a lot of his industry sources were getting in touch with them and being like, I really wish he hadn't talked like that. He's only going to make things more unstable. He's only going to make people more nervous when he talks like this. I do think that everyone is evaluating the Pac-12 because it looks like the Pac-12 might be on the verge of collapsing, and you want to make sure you've already done your homework if that opportunity presents itself. As a matter of my own personal thoughts and analysis, I do not think the Big Ten is on the edge of, dropping another 4-team edition. I believe that the Big Ten is still in the same position that we had heard reported a few weeks ago, which is they're waiting on a call from South Bend before they make their next move. And in adding Stanford, you continue to build out Notre Dame's schedule within your own conference. What makes it easier to be able to get Notre Dame to join your conference than when you already have USC, Stanford, Michigan. I mean, all of these teams that Notre Dame either traditionally has or would like to play. The second piece on the college football playoff expansion, I thought was arguably more interesting because he said, I support college football playoff expansion. And, your initial thought is, oh, that's weird. You voted against college football playoff expansion, and you convinced the ACC and the Pac-12 to also vote against college football playoff expansion. But then he said, with multiple media rights partners.
Yes.
To which, in defense of Kevin Warren, what he voted against was not only college football playoff expansion, but specifically, he voted against a college football playoff expansion in which ESPN would own the entire college football playoff.
And Jim Phillips said at ACC kickoff that he was also for multiple partners for this, even though the league is wholly owned by ESPN. So, and look, there are a lot of reasons. I still believe that the driving force was essentially an up yours.
Fox doesn't want ESPN to own it for 12 years.
Right,
yeah,
but it was also an up yours to Greg Sankey and the SEC for expanding with Texas and Oklahoma a year ago, but that's fine. I appreciate the vindictiveness and the pettiness of that these guys have, and it's obvious that none of them are to be trusted by anybody else.